Two games, I know it's a small sample size. What is something that you've seen in those two games that you really like, and maybe something where you're focusing on with the guys to work on?
Yeah, well, I think I love the way we're sharing the ball.
Okay.
And our efficiency offensively, aside from our turnovers, right, has been really good. The pace we're playing at is good. I think we even still have another gear to get to. So plus and minus there offensively, obviously, when I mentioned the turnovers. Then on the defensive side, I think our defensive connection continues to get better. When I say defensive connection, talking, calling out coverages earlier, thought we executed the game plan better from a scouting standpoint in game 2 than game 1. Then, I think we got to continue to grow in our ability to pressure the ball at times without getting too extended. And then we're going to constantly be monitoring the rebounding. That's such a big key every single game. Doesn't matter who we play. So just okay game 1, better game 2. We'll continue to monitor that as each game as the season progresses.
So again, small sample size, but you feel like these are guys who, especially guys you're working with for the first time, are taking what they're seeing, what you're coaching, and there are improvements that you're seeing.
Yeah, I think, anytime you start a season, there's going to be some slippage.
Sure, yeah.
But what we have is we have a connected group. I've talked really at length about that since this group got together in June. And I think we have a really smart group, a group with a high basketball IQ that is investing a lot of time in watching film and in preparation for each game. So that, when you start to project out, that makes you really hopeful about where we can be even, 2 weeks from now, let alone a month from now or 2 months from now.
How's Devin doing?
Yeah, okay. I think we'll have a better feel for what, the game looks like tomorrow morning. We're trying to give him some time to recover and see what kind of progress we can make. But I think it's up in the air right now for game day.
So what is he dealing with?
Yeah, a hip injury, I guess, is the best way to put it without going into too much detail. Nothing I don't think anybody's anticipating being long-term. It's just more, he's feeling it. He makes some progress. And we kind of have a step back, then we make more progress, step back. So we're just trying to get it to a place where I think he can kind of turn the corner.
Listen, he's in an interesting spot given your lineup and given, obviously moving him there. What does that position look like if he can't go? What do you look to put in the lineup? What does that position look like without him?
Yeah, well, I think, you've seen us so far in the first couple games against teams that have 3 smaller guards. We've played a 3-guard lineup.
Right.
This opponent's unique because they played 2 bigs. So that gives us some flexibility the other way. And, I think we got to get a chance to practice some of these unique lineups too. And, we're going to take some look at that today to see if we can, at least, give a chance to maybe play Yvonne and Tilly together at times, or maybe, move Amari down a little bit. So we're looking at all. We've had some time in the preseason to practice that. Now in game prep, we haven't spent really much time at that, so we'll try to do some of that today before we start tomorrow.
Yeah, on that note, how much experimentation do you want to do tomorrow, especially since you want to see a lot of improvement from game 1 and game 2?
Well, I think first off, we got to play to win, and we're playing a really good team, a team that's well coached, and a team that has a lot of firepower, a team that plays a little bit slower than the 2 opponents we've seen so far, but that's not to say they aren't capable of being really, really good offensively. So it's not time to necessarily try things just to try things, right? It's time to try some things that we feel can be impactful for this game, and you want to get some reps in practice, certainly. And we're not talking wholesale changes, right? We're talking short spells of a game where at least our guys feel confident and comfortable going in and executing what we need to do both offensively and defensively, even if it's maybe a lineup we haven't played yet this year.
Can we get your big picture take on what you've seen from the first week of the college basketball season, how competitive it seems to be this year?
I think this is the best sport, and it's the best sport because on any given night anything can happen. And you're going to see close games, right? You're going to see close games against opponents that on paper maybe it shouldn't look like they should be close games, but everybody's old, and there's so much depth in college basketball, and you've seen, I think the influx of international players and experienced international players has made it even more competitive top to bottom. So I think college basketball is only going to continue to get better. And it's why we've scheduled the way we've scheduled. Certainly had a unique opponent game one. We got a really good opponent coming in here, game three. And obviously, ACC opponent in game four. So you got to, at this time of year, you got to grow. And then on game day, you got to be your absolute best. That's got to be your best day of the week. Certainly growing all week long, but, we need to have our best day yet tomorrow.
Talk about old players. We have Christoph and Brandon who bring so much experience. How happy are you with how they've been able to lead, especially seeing them lead in a game kind of situation with all the experience they have?
They've been great. I talked a little bit before the game just about our leadership team, and both of those guys were elected by their peers and our staff to be a part of that leadership team. Each guy has their own strengths, as leaders. But I think what we're looking for, most importantly, right, is consistent play, and we've seen that. And Tilly maybe has been more productive. Some of that is just the design of how we're playing. But Brandon was one of our most productive players in the scrimmage and exhibition game. So the one thing about him is I think he lets the game come to him. He and I talked about being more aggressive and finding those spots. And we're expecting him, as he continues to get comfortable in what we're doing, to continue his production, but continue to rise.
As you went back over the tape of the game and examined what Bruce was able to do, it was kind of a quiet 38 points to me, other than the spurt where you pulled him over and talked to him, and he scored a couple times in a row real quickly, kind of asserted himself. Felt like it was spread out over the entire course of the game, and he just kept attacking and kept in the flow. Just what did you see, I suppose, as you watched it again on tape, to how efficient he was and how it came off like that?
I was surprised at the numbers he ended up with, because it didn't feel like he was making these like ridiculously challenging shots to get to this total. He really took what the game presented, certainly asserted himself in areas where we needed him to, but when he did that, he got good looks. It wasn't like he was doing that and having to take a bunch of tough shots. So I thought it was a masterful game. My wife told me, she's like, why didn't you leave him in? He could have got 40. I was like, I had no clue he had, whatever, 38 or whatever it was. So, and I told her, I said, we got a long season. So by all accounts, he's allowed to surpass that if you'd like. But Bruce he's so fun to coach, because like you talked about, you can challenge him in the flow of the game and really challenge your team through him in the flow of the game. And I think one of the things for us is, as we look at our turnover issues, he's a guy who throughout his career has taken care of the ball at such a high level. So we'll continue to lean on him for that, while some of our other guys continue to get better in that area. But it was just all the way around really impressive. And I think the thing about him, because he's not necessarily a high steal guy, but he takes teams out of their actions. He's disruptive defensively. Teams may run a set, and he's so smart, and he can completely blow up a set, and there's no stat for that. So that's the part for me, I think, that's been impressive, is what he's doing on the defensive end this year. And what we're going to need him to do, obviously, as the year continues to go on.
The high percentage of your points are coming from the guys who start. What can you do to maybe get a little bit more production, guys coming off the bench? I know minutes, they've got to play to score. I get that. But just what's your thought about the guys coming off the bench and what they can add for you going forward?
Yeah, I think our bench is developing. We got high level belief in those guys, and I think as they continue to rise, it's going to make our team better. We got to. First game one was so unique, so we'll kind of throw that out of the equation. But I think we're trying to settle into substitution patterns and things like that. So hopefully guys can get a little better indication of when they're going in, can play through some mistakes. The big thing for me, for those, really for everybody, is maintaining our standard, as far as how hard we're playing, how tough we're playing, and how connected we're playing. It's really, guys haven't been coming out necessarily for offensive mistakes. It's been more on the defensive side. And so, for guys to continue to play more minutes, we need to tighten things up on that defensive side when they're in there. And if they do, we'll be able to get them more, because we need them to. And we got to give them a chance to continue to grow and develop. We've got a lot of inexperience on our bench. I think a lot of talent, and I think a lot of guys were going to get better quickly. But you got 2 freshmen. You have a redshirt sophomore who's really hasn't played either. Then you got Yvonne, who had limited minutes last year. You got Gabe, who's coming off an injury. Colin, who had limited minutes last year. So inexperienced right now. But we got a great level of belief in those guys, and as they continue to get better and improve, we will. I see a lot of potential there, certainly.
When it comes to that starting lineup, with the way that John has played so far this year, obviously he's hit some threes and he's done some things offensively. He looks maybe like he's still figuring some stuff out. I think he leads you in turnovers. You guys only missed 11 2-pointers, and he's got 5 of them. It's like he's maybe forcing it a little bit. Where is he offensively from a decision-making standpoint right now, again, being early in the season?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue I have with his play is his turnovers, and he and I have talked about that. I think he's getting off balance, a little bit, and some of them I think have been fatigue turnovers. I think especially when you go back to the first game, I probably, needed to get him out a little earlier in a couple stretches because he got tired. He and Bruce were breaking the press, over and over again, but he got a little fatigued at times. So I'll take 1 or 2 of those, from that first game, but. Outside of that, he's just got to keep valuing possession more. I don't really have any issues with the shots he's been taking, aside from I think it was maybe the first shot out of the half. And he came over and was like, that was a bad one. I said, well, go make up for it on the other end, man. So I trust him. I think he's so gifted offensively. I thought he took a big jump forward from game 1 to game 2 defensively, and that's my focus for him, is continuing to do his job on that side. He's improved tremendously at guarding the ball. He's got to continue to get better off ball defense, which I think he again made a big stride from game 1 to game 2, something we've been working hard on. But just taking care of the ball is probably really the only issue I've had with him offensively.
And then this week starts the signing period, and I know there's only so much you can say right now, but how do you feel in general about the guys that you might be signing here in a couple of days? And I'm sure you'll be excited to talk about it once.
Yeah, in general, without talking about anybody specific, feel great. I think this has the makings to be a great week for Ohio State basketball, and look forward to talking about that stuff here in a few days.
You mentioned the challenge of the opponent tomorrow. Does that help you concern-wise about maybe guys looking ahead to Notre Dame, and just obviously just the name recognition? You might see some of that.
I think I'm not concerned about this group looking ahead, because we got a really mature group, and really we need to have a great practice today, and that's been our approach. And to these guys' credit, we don't really have bad days. We don't have perfect practices. We have some rough moments at times in practice, but we've yet to have just a flat-out bad practice. And I think that happens, you see that from time to time when you have an immature group or a group that's maybe not connected. We have both those things. And so we continue to fight for the standard. And we talk about us getting better. We prepare well, and we prepare hard, and we prepare in great detail. And we're certainly learning how to take that preparation right onto the court and execute it at a high level. Again, big jump from game 1 to game 2. But I'm not worried about this group looking ahead at all. And we've talked about it. This is a high level opponent who's a program that's got some rich tradition, and a coach who's got great experience and a big time resume. So our guys are not looking past hopefully practice today. But certainly not looking past, tomorrow night.
Getting a lot of feedback on your new court. Is your phone blowing up about how great it looks on TV?
I think everybody really likes it. People love it in person. They love it in person. I think the gray really pops, and the lighting, kind of how you look like you're on a stage. And again, I think Ross and the team of people who were involved in that, his vision and then the execution was tremendous. And on film, when I'm watching it, I think it looks pretty good. I really do. I think when you see it in person, though, it takes it even to a whole nother level. And I'm looking forward to being able to change out the middle. I think having that ability is really cool. And so it's been great. I think we got to continue to keep pushing the envelope to build our home environment. We know how tough it is, especially when it comes time to Big Ten play. and what kind of an advantage of having a great home crowd can really serve a team. So we got to keep building that. And the people that have been coming have been loud, and we're going to continue. I think Buckeye Nation is going to continue to show up and continue to support us in a big way. And make no mistake, we're going to need it. So we're looking forward to tomorrow night.
Two-parter. Do you have good seats tonight?
Do I have good? No, I'm gonna be. I'll have my laptop off somewhere hidden in the back for a few songs, and then we'll get back to work.
And what song would you most want to hear?
Ooh, man. Probably my all-time favorite John Legend song is "Heaven," but second is "Ordinary People." If I had to guess, I probably won't get to see both of those because this is I think it's a tour from his first album, which Heaven wasn't on, and he'll probably save Ordinary People to the end, and I don't plan on being here all the way through. So I plan on catching a few songs while I'm doing the little film review, and then we'll call it a night.
Not going to try to run into him somewhere here?
I let it be known to the powers that be that I'm a big John Legend fan. If he's around this afternoon, I'd love to say hello, but that's about the extent of it. We got some more important things to worry about right now.
Good deal. Thanks, Jake.